In this video, we have two goals. The first thing we're going to do is install a new program on your machine, which is going to allow us to serve up a folder as a website. So we're going to serve up a given folder on our computer, meaning we can access all of those files in the browser. So we're going to be able to create a website and actually see it. The second thing that we're going to do is figure out how we can make a website. So if we're ever going to use JavaScript in the browser, we're going to have to learn a bit about HTML. HTML is the core building block of the web, and there is no way to make a website without it. So we're going to go ahead and explore a bit of HTML as well. The good news is that HTML is really easy to learn, so we'll have no problem figuring out how to use HTML alongside of introducing how we can mix JavaScript right in. So let's go ahead and start with step one, installing a new program on your machine that allows us to actually view our files in the browser. The web server program that we're going to be installing is called Live Server. Now, when you installed Node at the very beginning of this course, it actually came with another program called npm. And we can prove that by running npm with the v flag to get the version we have installed. Right here, we can see that I have version 5.5.1. You should see some version number showing up. As long as it's v4 or greater, you're good to go. You don't have to match this version exactly. So npm allows us to install other pieces of software. The one that we're going to install, Live Server, can be installed with just a single command. So let's go ahead and follow along. npm space install. Then we use the G flag like this. And then finally, we provide the name of the software we're trying to install. This is live-server. Now this command is all we need to run to install this new program. As the command runs, it's going to go off, grab the code, it's going to install it on our machine, and make sure that we can actually access this new program from the terminal. To test if things went well, we're going to run the command right here, live-server, and we're going to use the --version argument to get the version that's installed. If we see a version, we know it was installed correctly. If we see an error, then we know things went wrong. Right here, I am seeing a version, Live Server version 1.2.0. Now, once again, you don't have to match this version number up exactly. It doesn't matter. What is important, though, is that you're not seeing a message like Live Server command not found. If you are seeing something along those lines, it most likely means there was a small misconfiguration along the way. Not your fault. It's something related to your OS. And all you need to do is open up a new question in the Q&A, and we'll get that fixed so you can get back to the course. For now, though, if you are seeing the Live Server version printing, then you're all done with step one, and we can move on to step two, figuring out how we can use HTML to create a basic website. So over in our Bootcamp folder, what we're going to do is make a new directory for each website we want. And we're going to start off with just one for our Notes application. Right here, I'm going to call this folder appropriately Notes-app. Now in the Notes app folder, we're going to put everything that makes up our website. So we're going to have some HTML, we're going to have some JavaScript, and we might have other things like images or anything along those lines. For now though, we just need a single file in the Notes app folder. I'm going to call this one index.html. That name is important, and what goes inside of here is our HTML document, which defines what the user is going to see when they visit our web page. HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is going to allow us to create this basic web page, and then we'll be able to integrate JavaScript into it to do things dynamically, like respond to a button click, for example. The first thing we have to put in our HTML document is we have to define what's in here. So when the browser loads this page, it needs to know what is in this file, and we do that by specifying a doc type, which is short for a document type. So the first line is just going to tell the browser that we are using HTML. The line looks a little bit like this. I'm going to use the less than symbol, the exclamation mark, uppercase doc type, no space between the two, then a space, lowercase HTML, and then we use the greater than symbol. So this is our document type declaration, and now that we've asserted this file contains HTML, we can actually go ahead and add some HTML inside. If you've ever worked with a markup language like XML, then HTML is going to look pretty similar. We're going to follow a similar structure. To kick things off, it's important to note that not everything we type in this document is actually going to get shown to the user. So don't worry, no one's going to see doctype HTML. This is something that the browser reads, but it leaves it out when it actually renders the document to the user. The next thing we're going to do is create our HTML element. This is the root of our document, and everything else goes inside of it. Right here, we do that by defining an HTML tag. A tag is something that we're going to see a lot. It is what allows us to define the various pieces of our document. Right here, we're going to create our first tag by using the less than symbol, followed by the tag name. In this case, it is the HTML tag, and then we're going to close it by using the greater than symbol. Now, when I type that symbol, you're going to notice that a whole bunch of stuff shows up afterwards. This is because HTML has auto-completed my tag. Right here, we have the opening tag. The opening tag is the less than symbol, the tag name, also known as the element name, then the greater than symbol. Then the stuff that goes inside of the tag would go right here. Then we have our closing tag, which is exactly the same as the opening tag. We just put a / right before the tag name. So this structure, the creation of a tag, is something that we're going to be doing to define all of the pieces of our document. And we're going to do it again right here in HTML. Right here, what we're going to do is create the head tag. The head tag is something we're actually going to leave completely empty for the moment. The head tag allows us to further configure our HTML document, and for the moment, we don't need to configure anything more, so we'll leave it empty. We'll come back and put more stuff in there as we move through the next couple of sections. The other tag we're going to define alongside of head is going to be the body tag. Right here, body. I'm going to close it off. Visual Studio Code auto-completes that closing tag, and what goes inside of body is the stuff shown to the user. So for the moment, we could just type some text. This is my body text, for example. You can type any characters you want inside of here, and they're going to get shown to the user when someone actually loads this site. With this in place, we can save our HTML file, and we're actually ready to view this in the browser. Let's go ahead and do just that by using the live server command. Over in the terminal, I am going to clear the terminal output just to clean things up a little bit. And we're actually going to use cd ... to go up a folder. We were currently in the arrays folder from the last section. Now, what we're not going to do is navigate into Notes app. We actually want to stay in the JS Bootcamp directory. And from here, we're going to use that live-server command followed by a space, and we're going to pass in the folder name, the name of the folder we're trying to serve up. In this case, we called that one notes-app. Now, when we run this command, a few different things are going to happen. We're going to get some output, which we'll talk about a bit later, and a website is automatically going to open in your browser. Now, for me, I have multiple monitors, and it accidentally opened on one of my other monitors, but I can also just take this URL, copy it to the clipboard, head over to the browser, and paste it right in. This is the URL that was opened automatically, and when I view it, what do I get? I get some text showing up. This is my body text. So there we have it. We were able to create an HTML document, we were able to start our web server, and we were able to view the document in the browser by typing in the correct URL. Now, it's important to note that this URL is only going to work locally on your machine. If you were to tweet this URL out and other people were to try to access this URL, nothing would show up. We'll talk more about how we can deploy our websites live to the web for anybody to view a bit later. For now, though, we're just going to work locally on our machine. So we have our basic document showing up, and we can go ahead and make changes to it. Let's go ahead and swap this text out for something else. Some other text. When I go ahead and save the HTML document, you're going to notice that in real time in the background, the web page refreshes and I get my new document showing up. I went from the other text to the new text automatically without needing to manually click refresh in Firefox. This feature, known as live reloading, comes from the live server application itself. It's a super handy feature, one of the many great features, making it really easy to develop locally. We can just mess around with our HTML file and see things in the background without having to switch between the various programs. Now in this HTML document, we've used 3 tags: HTML, head, and body. These tags make up the core structure for a bare bones HTML document, though there are many other tags we can use inside of body and head to make things a little bit nicer. So a lot of the tags that we're going to be using are going to go in body, and they're going to allow us to customize exactly how things show up. For example, let's go ahead and delete the text in body, and instead of putting just text right inside of body, we're going to put another tag right inside of body. This tag is known as the H1 tag. H1 standing for the first header. So H stands for header. When I close this tag off, all we need to do is put some stuff inside of it. So I'm going to put in the title for this website, something like Notes App, for example. Now we can go ahead and save our new document, and we're going to see that the H1 tag makes the text show up much larger, like we would expect for a title. There are other title tags as well, other header tags. We can go from H1 all the way down to H6. So for example, right below H1, I could add an H2 tag. Right here, I could put a subtitle, Take Notes and Never Forget, or something like that. If I save the document in its current state, we can see we have our biggest header up top, Notes App, and then we have a smaller header down below. So we go from H1 all the way to H6, getting smaller as we move down the list. Now there are plenty of other tags we're going to be using as well. We'll explore just one more for the moment. Down below our H2 tag, we're going to create a P tag, P being short for paragraph. This is where we could put just some generic text. So if we're talking about exactly what the application does, or we're going through the process of creating an about page, I might use a P tag to contain that text. So this application was created by, and then you can put your name right there. I'll put Andrew Mead right here. I'm going to save the file, and what happens over in the browser, we now get our third piece of content showing up. We have, at a normal font size, this application was created by Andrew Mead, showing below our H2 and our H1. If we were to switch the order of these lines, we would switch the order in which things show up. For example, if I take my H2, I cut it out, and I put it below the P tag in the body, it's going to show up below the P tag when we actually view the document in the browser. So this is the very basics of HTML. We're going to explore more as we go through the course, but what you should notice by now is that HTML is made up of a bunch of tags, also known as elements. We put things inside of these elements, and we create this tree-like structure. We start with our root HTML and then head and body, and then in there we put as much stuff as we need to make up our page. Now that we have this in place, I do want to show you where you can learn more about HTML. This is in the MDN documentation. MDN has great documentation for JavaScript, as we already saw, but it also has great documentation for HTML. If we Google MDN HTML, it should get us to the right place, and we're looking for this page right here. Now this page is going to give you a generic overview, things we've already talked about, how HTML is the building block of the web. What's more interesting though is what's down below. So they give you a list of some sample tags, and a couple of these should look familiar. We have the HTML, the head element, the body element, we have the P element, which we already explored. But down below that, we have various tutorials, which we're going to ignore. It's the references that are a bit more interesting. Right here, we have an HTML element reference. This is going to list all of the elements or tags that you can use in your document. So if you're ever curious as to what something does or when it should be used, you can go over here and you can view this master list. For example, if I scroll down through the list, I can get to this section, I can see my H1, I can click H1, I can then get over to the page where we define the H1 tag, and we can learn how it works and what it does. Now, a lot of these are very simple, and there's not going to be a whole lot to it. For example, on this page, they just create H1 through H6, they render it, and you see H1 through H6 getting progressively smaller as we go. As I mentioned, the basics of HTML really aren't bad, and you're going to be able to pick this up pretty quickly. But if you do ever wonder how something works, I recommend heading over to the MDN documentation and digging around there, because they explain everything for HTML, JavaScript, and more. Now that we have this in place, we have our basic document set up, and the document is served to a little web server, meaning we can actually access it by typing in some URL in the browser. Where we want to go from here is figuring out how we can load JavaScript into our HTML document. We're going to need to do that if we want to set up code that responds to a button click, for example. Let's go ahead and dive right into the next video and figure out how to do just that. I'll see you then.